As society changes and historical facts evolve into embellished myths, the American Old West continues to lose its original identity.
Send a wire to the main office and tell them that I said, ow!
Welcome to WatchMojo's Top 5 Facts. In today's installment, we're providing some clarity about the essence of a wildly misrepresented era, as we count down the 5 most interesting and surprising facts about the Old West, a period from roughly 1820 to 1920.
Take your money and get out, because I'm tired of listening to your mouth.
Number 5. The Old West wasn't all that violent.
Oh, Johnny, I apologize. I forgot you were there. You may go now.
Just leave that shotgun.
Gunslingers, brothels, and booze. We've all heard the stories. But the legends of the Old West don't always bear a close resemblance to the truth. For example, Tombstone's largest murder count in a single year never surpassed 5, and so the guns weren't exactly ablazing. As far as Deadwood, the year 1876 didn't go down in history as the best time to visit, as the city had about 1 murder per day that year. But 1 year of mayhem is not representative of the larger truth. And just as the Gunsmoke line of "it's time to get out of Dodge" enhanced the Old West myth, the actual town of Dodge City averaged 0.6 murders per year from 1870 to 1885.
I knew you couldn't keep me, Marshal. Now how about giving me back my gun?
Some experts, like UCLA law professor Adam Winkler, actually suggest that this low rate of violent crime may have been due to another surprising fact. Many frontier cities like Dodge, Deadwood, and Tombstone had laws prohibiting the carrying of firearms in town.
Nobody's saying you can't own a gun. Nobody's even saying you can't carry a gun. All we're saying is you can't carry a gun in town.
Number 4. The red light bordello of Dodge City inspired the term red light district.
Oh, I feel great. I feel just capital.
While famous gunfighters like Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday did once live in Dodge City, the locals in the 19th century spent more time making love than war. And that's partially because of the red light bordello, a brothel with a red glass door, which inspired the term red light district. And while anxious rail workers certainly had their own phrases for the sex industry back then, the illuminated light offered a telling sign for those less inclined to ask around town for the nearest brothel.
Drinks are on me.
And sure, it's impossible to say definitively who coined the phrase, but all the facts and scholarly opinions seem to point directly to the red light bordello of Dodge City. Number 3. Jesse James was his own PR man.
Can't figure it out. You won't be like me?
By the early 1970s, the notorious Jesse James had been robbing banks for a good 5 years, and well, he was pretty damn cocksure. But in his line of business, gunslingers didn't necessarily hire public relations representatives to say, "Hey, check out my guy doing good work." And so, Jesse James handled his own business by leaving press releases after robberies, thus ensuring that everybody knew they'd been officially punked.
Don't tell me what I can and cannot do, Ed.
In fact, one story goes that when James and his gang showed up to rob an Iowa bank in 1871, the town were all assembled at the church to hear famous orator Henry Clay Dean. Rather than just slip out of town unnoticed, James rode right into the church to wave his stolen stacks of cash around, to which Dean replied, "I yield to the man on horseback." Number 2. Camels were part of the Old West. No, none of your classic Hollywood westerns have camels in them, but we're here to set the record straight. Camels roamed the vast American Southwest for a little while.
Can't believe the price of these flea bags.
It all began when the US government dropped 30 grand for a special import in 1855, hoping the newly arrived camels would perform better than pack mules during expeditions. Weird as it might seem, it did make sense. By all accounts, the camels were much better at trekking across the desert than mules, and may have stayed in use for much longer if the Civil War hadn't broken out. But as fate would have it, some of these camels did go AWOL, and lived out their days in the Arizona wilderness until as late as 1891. Number 1. The Old West was multicultural. According to immigration statistics, 50,000 people arrived from Ireland in the 1820s, and 3 decades later, the total had reached nearly 2 million. Approximately 300,000 people came from China during the latter part of the 1800s, many to work on the railroad as it pushed west. 30,000 Caribbean, South, and Central American people made the journey in the 1880s alone. The majority of these immigrants wound up in urban settings, but many tried their luck in the western frontier. And let's not forget the largely untold story of black cowboys. Now that isn't to say that there weren't tensions, and even massacres of black people and immigrants in California, Oregon, Wyoming, and elsewhere during the 19th century, but the story of the Old West is much more multicultural than the largely whitewashed version that Hollywood has presented over the years. So, what fact about the Old West surprises you the most?
I didn't know there was gonna be so many.
For more guns ablazing top 10s and wild camel top 5s, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
You take Bulow, and you take the rest of your men, and you get out of Dodge.